As the story begins, we meet a Japanese man who suddenly wakes up inside a mysterious white room. There are no doors, no windows, and not another soul in sight. Confused, he walks toward one of the walls and notices a strange button. Curious, he reaches out and presses it. In an instant, hundreds of tiny laughing cherubs burst out from the walls and floor. They dance around the room for a few seconds before disappearing back into the walls, but before leaving, they reveal dozens of weird-looking buttons scattered all over the room. It almost feels like the room is teaching him how everything works. The man suddenly sniffs the finger he used to press the button, and his expression changes instantly. He screams in horror and desperately calls for help, but the room remains completely silent. With no other choice, he starts pressing the buttons one by one. Every button spawns a completely different object. One drops a giant flower vase, another gives him a tiny toothbrush, and pressing the same button again always produces the exact same item. Before long, he's surrounded by piles of chopsticks. Then the button right next to it suddenly launches a small trolley that slams into his feet. Crying out in pain, he accidentally hits another button, only to have a bizarre baby-shaped butt pop out and blast gas straight into his face. Hours pass, and the once empty room is now overflowing with random junk. Exhausted, he throws a ball at the wall, accidentally hitting another button. This time, a piece of sushi falls from above. Starving, he's thrilled until he realizes there's no soy sauce. Hoping the next press will give him some, he keeps hitting the same button, but every single press only drops more sushi. Finally, he gives up and eats it without soy sauce. The moment he finishes the last piece, he presses the button again, and this time, a bottle of soy sauce finally falls out. Furious at the terrible timing, he throws it across the room. A little later, another button rewards him with an old-fashioned pair of 3D glasses. As soon as he puts them on, he notices something impossible, a tiny cherub floating in front of him, pointing toward a specific button. Thinking he's finally discovered the way out, he presses it without hesitation. Instead, a countdown begins. When it reaches 0, another baby-shaped butt suddenly appears and blasts gas directly into his face again. Hours later, he has collected parts 1 through 5 of a book. Excited to complete the set, he presses the button again, expecting part 6, but instead, part 7 drops out. He presses more buttons and eventually finds parts 8 and 9, but part 6 is still nowhere to be found. Then, out of nowhere, another random button opens a hidden door behind him. Overjoyed, he rushes toward it, but in his excitement, he forgets which button opened it. As he desperately searches, one button causes an African runner to dash straight through one wall and disappear into another. Another button makes water pour endlessly onto his head. After countless attempts, he finally finds the correct button again. But just as he reaches the doorway, it slams shut right in front of him. The exact same thing happens on his second attempt. That's when he realizes the truth. The button has to stay pressed the entire time for the door to remain open. Now begins his funniest challenge yet. He tries holding it down with his foot. He ties ropes around it. He comes up with one ridiculous idea after another, but nothing works. Finally, he places the heavy flower vase on top of the button. For a moment, it seems successful, until the button slowly pops back up. Realizing the vase isn't heavy enough, he decides to make it heavier. First, he tries filling it with water, but that's impossible because the water button only dumps water onto his head. So he comes up with a new plan. He stuffs the vase full of sushi. Piece after piece, the vase becomes so incredibly heavy that he can barely lift it anymore. Since the vase has a very narrow opening, the man starts pulling the sushi out one piece at a time using chopsticks. Once it's empty enough to carry, he drags the vase back toward the button, but the moment he gets there, panic hits him. He has forgotten which button opened the door. Desperately, he starts pressing random buttons again. One of them makes the mysterious African runner burst through the wall once more. This time, he crashes straight into the vase, smashing it into 2 pieces. Frustrated beyond belief, the man completely loses his temper. After another exhausting search, he finally finds the door button again. He tries holding it down by piling sushi on top of it, but the button still pops back up. Next, he uses tape to keep it pressed, yet that idea fails as well. Completely drained, he swallows a few painkillers and falls asleep. When he wakes, he decides to brush his teeth, so he presses what he thinks is the water button. It turns out to be the wrong one,
But this mistake becomes his greatest breakthrough. A long rope suddenly drops from the ceiling. His face lights up. He instantly realizes he can swing across the room before the door closes. Without wasting a second, he presses the door button, grabs the rope, and swings through the doorway just in time. But there's a catch. Behind the first door is another locked door. He tries to open it, but it won't budge. Before the first door shuts, he quickly jumps back into the original room. Unfortunately, the closing door slams into his back, and in frustration, he kicks the wall as hard as he can. To his surprise, a floating key suddenly appears in the middle of the room. He immediately understands that this must be the key to the second door, but just like the first door, the key disappears after a few moments. Now he has two problems to solve. He must keep the first door open while grabbing the key before it vanishes. The only problem? He's forgotten which button creates the key. Once again, he begins pressing random buttons. One of them releases a barking dog that charges straight at him. The second attempt triggers the exact same dog. Finally, on his third try, he discovers the correct button.
Carefully memorizing its location, he walks backward, grabs some sushi from the pile, and places it on top of the button. But the moment he presses it again, the barking dog pops out instead, ruining everything. After locating the correct button once more, he comes up with another strategy. This time, he plans to swing on the rope and reach both buttons in one smooth motion. Unfortunately, that plan fails too. As he crashes onto the floor, his eyes land on a plunger he had collected earlier from another random button. Suddenly, an idea flashes through his mind. What if I use the plunger to stick myself to the wall while pressing the button? After several attempts, he finally gets the technique right. Swinging from the rope, he sticks himself to the wall with the plunger, presses the correct button, pushes himself backward, catches the floating key in mid-air, and then races to press the door button. He presses the button, grabs the rope, and swings through the doorway just seconds before it slams shut. But another shocking surprise awaits him. Right above the second door is yet another lock. This one requires a 3-digit code. Panicking, he rushes back into the first room. Just like before, the closing door smashes into his back. Frustrated, he hurls the plunger at the wall. It accidentally presses another button, and the mysterious African runner appears once again. But this time, as the runner dashes past him, the man notices something incredible. 3 numbers are written across the runner's forehead. He instantly realizes those digits must be the password for the second lock. The problem is that the runner only stays visible for a few seconds. Thinking quickly, he memorizes 1 digit at a time, runs back to the door, enters it, and repeats the process until all 3 numbers are entered. Click! The second lock finally unlocks. Relieved, he takes a deep breath, only to realize the first door has already closed behind him. Now he's trapped in the tiny space between the 2 doors. It's so cramped that he can't even reach the first door to open it again. Exhausted, he sits down and begins reflecting on everything that happened in the strange white room. It suddenly hits him. Yes, he was trapped, but he was never truly helpless. The room always provided food, entertainment, and endless possibilities if he was willing to experiment. Just then, he feels a gentle breeze coming from the wall in front of him. Curious, he touches it and discovers a crack. The wall is fake. Without wasting another second, he tears it open and steps into a mysterious hallway suspended in empty space. It stretches so far that it feels like he'll have to run forever to reach the end. He keeps running and running until he finally reaches another door. As soon as he enters the next room, something strange happens. His hair suddenly grows much longer, his clothes become faded, and he begins to look noticeably older. Before he can process what's happening, the door behind him shuts. This room looks just as empty as the last, but there's one major difference. Instead of tiny cherubs, hundreds of giant angels fill the room.
After a brief moment, they vanish into the walls, leaving behind another set of mysterious buttons. It feels like the beginning of another test. By now, the Japanese man has almost given up. Then, he notices a strange light shining from above. Looking up, he realizes this room has no ceiling at all. High overhead, angels are flying through the sky. This time, instead of pressing the buttons, he uses them as footholds to climb upward. But with every button he touches, bizarre events begin unfolding across Earth. Flowers bloom, elephants die. The higher he climbs, the greater the effects become. Soon, the buttons no longer influence only nature, they begin shaping human history itself. A toaster springs to life, humanity lands on the moon, countless major events unfold as he continues ascending. By the time he reaches the top, his hair and beard have grown incredibly long. Now he no longer needs the buttons. Like the angels themselves, he begins floating effortlessly through the air. At this height, he reflects on everything he experienced in the previous rooms. He finally understands his true purpose. His job is no longer to press random buttons, it's to make the greatest decisions for all of humanity. From this point on, he carefully chooses the world's most important milestones, guiding the future itself. As his task nears completion, the walls around him slowly disappear, replaced by a massive circle of glowing wings. A mysterious divine portal opens before him. He steps through and arrives in the final room. This is the stage of the future. One wall displays a gigantic map of every continent on Earth. On the opposite wall stands a single enormous button. The man slowly reaches out to press it. And with that final mystery, the movie comes to an end. If you enjoyed this mind-bending story and want to see more recaps like this, don't forget to comment next. Thanks for watching.